Welcome to the preview for UFC on Fox 24. Demetrius Johnson versus Wilson Reis. This will take place April 15th in Clark Kent's hometown of Kansas. The card is going to start off with Aljamain Sterling against Augusto Mendez. Aljamain's 12-2. Augusto Mendez 6-1. Actually, before we get to that, I just want to say that this could be a record equaling night in the main event with DJ going for defense number 10 of his belt, which would equal Anderson Spider Silva's record. Separately, GSP has a different title defense record, but not consecutively. Obviously, he had the loss to Matt Serra and then regained his title and then retired without losing it. So how they'd count it, if when he comes back, if he drops down, picks up the title, I don't know if they would just continue that reign, but it's pretty elite territory for a DJ to be in, and I would like it if they had Anderson Silva or GSP, both of them, on hand to make a big deal out of it. A lot of people say that DJ isn't a big star. Well, this is a big night for him, and they really need to make it into a big night to show people that he's a big star. It's on Fox. They can really, it's up to them what they make out of this night. Now, going back to Aljamain Sterling versus Augusto Mendez, I was really starting to get behind young Aljo. We're all the way on that bandwagon, to be honest. But then the Caraway loss and the last performance, I was really disappointed in. He just couldn't pull the trigger, in my opinion. And both those performances, they raised some questions for me. Obviously, he's a very talented young guy, but he likes to counter-strike. When he goes to the ground and things like that, he looks very good. When he's counter-striking, he looks good. But if someone stands off him, he doesn't push the action. And if he's going to fulfill his potential and really get to the top of the division, he needs to go out there and start taking control of fights. Now, that is what Mendez does. Mendez likes to push forward. And the only loss on Mendez' record is to the champ, Cody No Love Garbrandt. Obviously, he's got great BJJ credentials, both in gi and without gi. So if this goes to the ground, you probably fancy Mendez. I know Sterling trains with Matt Serra, but you really have to fancy Mendez because of his credentials. Moving forward, he looks like he's got good power. He is susceptible to taking a shot. But because I think that he can push the pace where Sterling's kind of waiting for him to do something, I fancy Mendez to get this one by decision. Now, obviously what they say is don't leave this in the hands of the judges, and that's what we're going with. The next fight on the card, I'm really excited about this. This is the debut of Tom Duquesnoy. People who are fans of Bama will know him. He's dual weight world champion there. And he goes up against veteran Patrick Williams. The Fire Kid is 23 years old and is the best French MMA fighter that has ever been. I think that's a fair statement to make already. Some people might disagree, but once you've watched this kid, you're going to be jumping on that bandwagon. I put him at the number 1 in my prospects video for a reason. He's very, very talented. He comes from a good camp. He's at Jackson Winklejohn. He's got good hands. He's fast. He's pretty competent on the ground as well. I think there's a lot to really like about the Fire Kid. Now, Patrick Williams, on the other hand, he will want to reign on this parade. 35 years old. This is likely to be his only shot at the UFC. And the things that he does well, takedown and wrestling, is probably his best chance. I think if Williams is able to grab hold of Duquesnoy, take him down, he could smother him for a round, but then at the beginning of the next round, Duquesnoy is going to be back on his feet. But if I'm honest, I see Duquesnoy being too quick. I think it's a big step up for him. I think it's the biggest stage than he's ever had before. Like I said, he was a 2-weight world champion in Bama. But I think Greg Jackson, Michael Winkeljohn will come up with a really good plan for him. I think he'll be prepared for this and he'll come out on top. I'm going to predict the TKO for the Fire Kid. And guess what? Get on the bandwagon now before the fight happens and all your friends are going to think you're a genius. We were banging on the door about Mark DeCasey, and now people are starting jumping on his bandwagon too. This is nothing new. This is nothing surprising. These kids are amazing, and they're going to take over. Conor McGregor might have led the way, but the European MMA is strong. Now, third fight on the card is a really good one, actually. We have Rashid Magomedov against Bobby Green. I really like this fight. Magomedov fights out of a great Russian team in Gorets. He has only lost twice, and both times by decision. Green has lost 7 times and is on a 2-fight skid. But that was to Dustin Poirier and Edson Barbosa. Both excellent strikers, both very, very accomplished. And there's a real argument to be made that Barbosa is ready for a title shot, depending what happens there at the top of the division. Now, Bobby Green actually took Barbosa to a decision. He didn't get knocked out like most people do. So, you got to give him a lot of respect for that. Before the Barbosa and Poirier loss, he had a 4-fight win streak, though. And the 4-fight win streak was over Josh Thompson, Pat Healy, James Krause, and Jacob Volkman. That's a pretty good resume, I think you've got to give the guy his props. Bobby Green is a dangerous fighter. I do think that it's more likely that Magomedov is going to win this via TKO. So that's what I'm going to pick. But I think it's going to be a great fight. Bobby Green's really going to push him. And I think, if you tune in early, you're going to be excited to see that one. Ketlin Vieira versus Ashley Evans-Smith. 2 talented young women collide in this one. And Vieira was another one of the prospects I highlighted in my videos. They're the same height, nearly the same reach. Ashley Evans-Smith, I would give the striking advantage to. But Vieira is coming out of Nova União, so, she's competent all around. And in my opinion, she definitely has the edge on the ground. Interesting note, Ashley Evans-Smith did wrestle on a boys' team in high school, and she beat the famous trans fighter Fallon Fox. That went all the way to the 3rd round. It was pretty back and forward. And she showed off in that fight the strength that she has. She's got a lot of fight in her. I actually see this playing out in a very, very specific way in my mind. And what I see is I can see Ashley Evans-Smith being very aggressive on the feet going forward, where I think she'll have the advantage. She'll get caught by Vieira, who's a pretty good counter striker. Then I imagine Evans-Smith will shoot a double and take Vieira down. She'll try ground and pound. I imagine that Vieira will catch her, probably grab an arm, either finish her with a triangle or an armbar. So I'm going with Ketlin Vieira via tap out. So then we move on to the next fight on the card. Anthony Smith versus Andrew Sanchez, a battle of the double A's. Now, anybody who is familiar with both of these guys might consider this to be a mismatch. For me, Andrew Sanchez looks like a legitimate contender moving forward towards the top 10. And Anthony Smith, with all due respect for a guy, who gets in the cage for 38 times, and really he's a good fighter, but we have to consider him as a journeyman, I don't see Anthony Smith being on Andrew Sanchez's level. I think this is a clear victory for Sanchez. Smith is 6'4", so he's pretty tall for the middleweight. From what I've seen of him, though, he doesn't use that height and reach to really the best advantage. I don't see him sticking around in the UFC too long either. But I think Andrew Sanchez could go on towards the top 10. And I think in this one he's going to get a fairly easy TKO victory. I don't know what else I can say. I think it's one of the standout obvious picks on the card. Next up, we have Zach Cumming against Nathan Coit. Again, I feel this is a bit of a mismatch. Coit, to me, feels like a journeyman again. He should probably savor being in the UFC because I think what's coming is a loss. And I think that what we're likely to see is Coit get cut after this. Zach Cummings is a very respectable, tough fighter. He can kind of grind you down. He's doing very well at welterweight. I don't think Coit has the power on the feet or the skill on the ground to trouble Cummings. And for me, this is a bit of a waste. I see Cummings as a really good test for young fighters in the welterweight division. He should be a kind of gatekeeper to see whether or not they've got what it takes to move forward or whether they need to develop a little bit more. For me, this is a complete waste of a fight. I think Zach Cummings is going to win this by tap out. But, again, I'm looking at the matchmakers and wondering, what the decision process is about making this fight. Because even if Zach Cummings wins this, beating Nathan Coit doesn't move him forward in his career at all. Next fight up, we have Devin Clark versus Jake Collier. This is quite an interesting one. UFC.com has this down as being a light heavyweight bout. Both guys have fought previously at 185 in the past. Height and reach advantage go to Collier, but he is being KO'd twice. Collier has a suspect ground game, in my opinion, and he's very hittable on the feet. He throws this looping right hand, and he leaves himself very exposed. If somebody was able to slip that and then rip him, I could see him getting knocked out quite easily. He has improved his stand-up a little bit, but I think it's a huge vulnerability at this level. Now, in terms of the brown bear, Devin Clark, he isn't what I would consider to be a ground specialist, but he can sure score a takedown against Jake Collier. He's got a pretty good double leg. He can hold him down and keep him in position. And I think that's a better idea for him than standing and trading. If he stands and trades, Collier's got a puncher's chance. But if he's able to take this down to the ground, which I think he will be, and I think he'll be able to keep him there. Actually, even if he stays on the feet and it keeps it at range, nice and technical, I still think he beats Collier. Either way, I think that this is going to the judges again, and I'm going to pick Devin Clark. Next up, we have the TUF 24 Champions winner, Tim Elliott, who's 13-7, against Lewis Smolka, who's 11-3. Smolka is on a 2-fight losing streak, and Tim Elliott just lost very narrowly to Demetrius Johnson last time out. Tim Elliott did have a bit of a bad run between 2013 and 2015. This is what got him kicked out of the UFC with a 3-fight losing streak. But other than that, he drew his debut bout, then he lost his next two. But he won everything else. He had a little bit of a bad run, and losing to DJ is no shame. But other than that, Tim Elliott's won every other fight he's had. You can't ask for too much more than that. Now, in terms of Smolka certainly looked like a rising star in the division. He beat fellow prospect Ben Ngannou in 2016 before dropping his last two. I think this could be a real frantic fight. I expect a lot of it to take place on the floor with a ton of transitions. Either of these guys could theoretically pull off a submission during those transitions. And it's a flip of a coin in some sense, but I think Smolka is the more dangerous. I expect him, or I'm going to pick him, let's say, to win by submission. It could be decision, and to be honest, I wouldn't pick against Tim Elliott in terms of, I won't bet against him. This really could go either way. But yeah, I fancy Smolka's got a few more submissions in his bag. So if it's going to be a submission win from those transitions, I fancy Smolka for doing it. Next up, we've got a heavyweight battle. I'm very excited about this one, actually. This is Alexander Volkov against Roy Big Country Nelson. Now, I think the Big Country could take on Brad Pickett's ring name. Now he's retired, to call himself, One Punch. That seems to be all he wants to do these days, is try and land that big one punch and knock people out. He's a very, very talented grappler, and in my opinion, he's wasting a lot of his ability. I don't know where Big Country is going to go if he loses this. It's kind of difficult not to see retirement in his future, even though, he's very competitive and he probably beats a lot of the heavyweight division, but he's not going to get near the title. I don't see him being able to handle the 12-year age difference. Volkov is much taller as well. I believe he's 6'7". To call, I like the name Drago as well. That's pretty cool. But I think this is really going to be Volkov's coming out party. His debut against Big Country's stablemate Tim Johnson, not the most exciting, and maybe Big Country learned a lot from that. Maybe we're going to see a lot of him pushing up against the fence, which would, rightly get booed. But for me, Volkov could be right in the mix along with Ngannou as the new face of the heavyweight division. Now, if Stipe wins against JDS, those three at the top of the division could trade matches for many years to come. That would be exciting. He's 27-6, which is a lot of fights. 18 via KO. He's pretty good with the feet as well as the hands. And to be quite honest, I expect that he's going to win this one on the feet. I think TKO keeps it at distance. He could start stalking down Big Country. But yeah, I don't see Big Country winning this unless he gets back to his grappling game. Next up, we have Who's That Guy? I won't repeat the Conor McGregor phrase or the one that's, been played to death on the internet. But yeah, I think the obvious thing here is Jeremy Stephens going up against Renato Canario. Jeremy Stephens is a great power puncher. Canario, who's 10-0 with one draw, is a great on the ground. He's got an equal split between decision victories and submission victories. Stephens will want to keep this standing, and if he can do that, he does have a chance, but Canaro's never been knocked out. I don't think he's met anybody with Stephens' power, to be honest, though. But Stephens has been in the UFC since May 2007. So this will be nearly 10 years since his debut. That is a hell of an achievement in this day and age. But I think Stevens has reached his peak, and Renato is going to keep rising. I see this being a submission victory to Canario. Who knows? I wouldn't bet against Stevens. If he's able to hit him early, Stevens could get the knockout. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Canario will survive, and he'll push on for the win. Then we move on to a very exciting match in the middleweight division. I'm a big fan of Reis. I really, really do like this guy, and I think it's a travesty he hasn't had a title shot yet. He should have had a title shot at so many different occasions. But, I mean, what can you say about Robert Whitaker? This guy has sneaked in, at number 6, ranked number 6 in the UFC middleweight division, and rightfully so. Last time Jacare lost via TKO was to Mousasi in 2008, the Dream Middleweight Grand Prix Finals. Could Whitaker be the guy who, knocks him out again? I don't think so. I think Whitaker has the advantage on the stand-up, but Souza's game is much improved. I think Souza has pretty good stand-up these days. Whitaker lost once via submission. But, 17-4, 6-fight win streak. There's a lot to like about him. I think going into this, the thing that troubles me most is an interview Jacare Souza had, or a report, let's say, from Guilherme Cruz on MMAfighting.com, where Souza seems comfortable about retiring. He's talking about opening up his own gym, that he could make the same money that he makes in the UFC. That, to me, could be a weakness. If he started to think about that, because I know his good friend Anderson Silva is back and doing well, and he would hate to fight Anderson, and I think Anderson might, not by mirror, but Anderson might get back there to fight for the middleweight title, especially if he's able to take out Kevin Gastelum in a spectacular fashion. So I think Robert Whitaker has all the desire, the passion burning inside him. I do question whether Souza does. If Souza turns up with his head on, though, I pick him to win by tap out. I don't think it would really change Souza's position. I think, he's waiting in line. Romero, who beat him, is in front of him. Obviously, what happens if GSP does beat Bisping, or if either of those guys get injured, or Bisping wants some kind of crazy fight with Woodley. There's a lot of permutations right now. I like Jacare, though. I hope he gets his title shot. He really does deserve it. Then we move on to Rose Namajunas against Michelle Watterson. Now, Michelle Watterson calls herself the Karate Hottie. It might be better changing her name to the MMA MILF. But yeah, again, I think this is another really, really good fight. I'm really stoked for this card, actually. There's a lot of good fights on it. And as a fight fan, I think that, there are a couple where I'm just scratching my head and I don't know what the matchmakers were thinking. But there are some really, really good fights as well. Now, Rose Namajunas is 5-3, which I think is more about her age. She's only 24, than her talent. Now, Watterson, 14-4. There's a little difference in height. Namajunas is 5'5". Watterson is 5'3". But I think the key, really, like I said, is Namajunas is 24. She's much improving. I think Watterson maybe is as accomplished as she will get to be. I think the improvements we'll see from Watterson will be slight, whereas from Namajunas, I think we could see, a real leap forward at some phase in her game where she gets much, much better. And one of the things that I think will be very telling is how she responds to the loss against Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Now, both these guys beat Paige Van Zandt by rear naked choke, but it doesn't tell me a lot. What does tell me a lot was the defeat to Karolina Kowalkiewicz, who has a lot of similarities to Watterson, especially, striking-wise. Now, if Rose can make adjustments and improve, then I like her chances here. But I think what happened and what Greg Jackson and Mike Winklejohn will be working from is that Kowalkiewicz has already shown the holes in Namajunas' game. The path to victory for Michelle Watterson is clearly laid out. Now, if Namajunas has been able to fix those holes and she's improved, then who knows what we're going to see. I do think we're going to see the full 15 minutes here. I think both fighters are going to have their moments. I think that this is going to be a great stand-up affair. I don't expect to see much of it on the ground, maybe a little bit of ground and pound, but I expect these two to stand and fight. I do think that Rose will dig deep and push Watterson, but I'm going to pick Watterson by decision, and I'm also going with this for fight of the night. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if Rose Namajunas won this, but I feel quite comfortable that Watterson's going to win this unless Namajunas has made a lot of adjustments from the Kowalkiewicz fight. Then we get on to the main event. This one should have happened a long time ago. Wilson Reis got bumped for that Ultimate Fighter Champion of Champions kind of thing. And one of the funny things about that was the DJ apparently found out when he was on his Twitch. Somebody told him that the UFC had cancelled the Reis fight and were doing this Ultimate Fighter, bringing in all the champions from his division, from other organizations, and that he was going to fight the winner of that. Of course, the tough with Henry Cejudo and Joseph Benavidez was a little bit weird also, that you've got two young guys at the top of that division who are likely to fight a lot of the up-and-comers, coaching the guys that they're going to be fighting in the future. But anyway, we get back to the Reis, much deserving of his title shot as well. And last time out, when he was having a kind of filler fight to get his way here, he had a really tough opponent, a really difficult kind of opponent in Sasaki. Very tall for the division, very difficult to fight against, very difficult to kind of control on the ground. Now, I do think Reis is a rightful owner of the number 3 spot in this division. I think he's right up there and competitive with anyone else in this division, except for the champion. Reis has power. He's good on the ground. He's good standing up. But DJ is excellent at those things. I don't think he can knock DJ out. I don't think he can submit DJ. And even if he's causing DJ problems early in the fight, in the first or second round, Demetrius Johnson is the best MMA fighter at making adjustments in the ring, in the octagon rather, and then going on to win. Will DJ go forward and get this victory by knockout? I doubt it. Could he submit Reis on the ground? It's more likely. It's much more likely that he could submit him on the ground. But I think that this one could even go all the way to decision. I think the longer it goes, the better DJ will get. I don't know how Hayes would look in the fourth and fifth round. I'm not sure how his cardio would be for that. I imagine he's prepared for this. But even if you're prepared to go with DJ, I don't think you can change your game enough that it keeps DJ guessing for 5 rounds. You know, he usually figures that puzzle out in the first couple of rounds and then excels. So, I fancy DJ to win either by submission or on decision. And then it comes down to, what do the UFC do? Now, this is a guy who has got 9 title defenses rather. He's a dominant champion. He's very skillful. He's a very polite young man. He's a great family man. He's very, how shall we put this? He's very fan friendly as well. And to earn extra money, he runs this Twitch TV channel. Now, I would encourage everyone who's a fan of that kind of thing to go and watch him, support this guy. He's got 2 young kids. He had one of the best tie-in deals of anybody with sponsorship with Microsoft Xbox before the Reebok thing happened. And I felt really bad for him losing that, especially because the UFC they don't know how to push him. I don't know what's wrong with him, because there's a lot of talented fighters in there. He's fought John Dodson, he's fought Ian McCall, he's fought Benavidez, he's beat the gold medalist Henry Cejudo that they were really building up. Anybody you put in there with him, he beats. And I know people will be like, oh, well, he should go up and fight, Dominic Cruz or TJ Dillashaw or Cody Garbrandt. And, that is the only way I see this guy losing, is if he steps up in division. He is the best in the world at what he does in his weight class. He is a supreme fighter to watch. And this is going to be going out on Big Fox. Anderson Silva has a fight coming up against Gastelum. GSP has a fight coming up against Bisping. Both of those two going there, giving him, the respect that he deserves. Put him in the ring with them. Put him in the octagon afterwards. Do some kind of ceremony where he's equaling Anderson's record. Give them all a little bit of time on the mic. I'm sure they're all going to be very professional and polite with each other. They can plug the fights that they've got coming up. For me, that's a real promotional win-win. And I don't know why the UFC wouldn't do that. I don't see them doing that. But, if you want DJ to be a big pay-per-view star, I know you're giving him a real platform here, but you need to make the most of that platform as well. The Conor McGregor thing where he's going to go out and talk a load of trash, that's not DJ. It doesn't need to be DJ, and it shouldn't have to be DJ, DJ is a rare thing, and when DJ goes away, you're going to be sad that you didn't promote him better, and I don't know what I can tell or what I can say, but if anybody watches Demetrius Johnson and the way he executes his maneuvers, the way he links together different aspects of the game so smoothly, this is one of the best fighters that has ever been in mixed martial arts. And right now, when you don't have John Jones competing, right now when Anderson Silva and GSP are past their prime, it's very difficult to argue that anybody is better than him. Now, there's a 2-weight world champion, Conor McGregor, out there, but is Conor McGregor as accomplished in all aspects of the game? Has Conor McGregor, well, he hasn't even defended his title once, let alone against all comers. For me, there's no argument. DJ is the number 1 guy, pound for pound. And DJ should be the number 1 guy. They should be selling pay-per-view merchandise with this guy on it all over, He's a very promotable character. And for me, they do a really bad job promoting him. That said, that's the end of it for this prediction for UFC on Fox 24. Once the full cards are known for the pay-per-views and other upcoming events, I'll do some predictions for them too. Hopefully, this was a better, let's say, experience than some of the previous videos. I think we've got a lot of the production stuff sorted out, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments, like, subscribe, share it around, all that good stuff. Peace out.